already seen the Tweeks approved review of Raina's new book, Sisters, and we're wondering more about the author.
Or maybe you're a fan of Smile and or drama, and you were wondering, what's this Sisters book about?
Hi, everyone. We are here with Raina Telgemeier, the author of Smile and the new book, which comes out in August, Sisters. Maddie and I are sisters, and we argue quite a bit. Are you going to be showing in your book, Sisters, the cold, hard truth about sisters, or are you going to sugarcoat it?
I don't like to sugarcoat anything when I'm writing, and my sister and I have a really weird relationship, so I wanted to depict it as honestly as possible. I'm sure there are some sister relationships where you get along with your sister, but my sister and I are 5 years apart, and she's younger than me, and when I was little, I was like, yay, someone to play with, this is gonna be great, a sister. And she was like, I don't want to play with you. And I was like, what? but a little sister is supposed to want to play with her big sister, and that was not the case. So I just tried to show her as I remember her, but I also let her read the script before I published it, because I thought it was pretty important that she look at it
For sure,
and not say like, wow, you really painted me in a bad light. Because I still love her, obviously. She's my sister.
So, what was your inspiration for this book?
Well, I wrote a book called Smile. It came out 4 years ago, and it was a little bit popular, and I was not expecting that, right? Like, I wrote this book, it was about my life, it was about my middle school dental story, I had my braces and everything, and when it came out, a lot of other people with braces going through middle school were like, I can relate to this book, what happens to you next? When are you going to write a sequel to Smile? And I thought, why would you write a sequel to something like Smile? It's an experience that came to an end, and I tried to, show what my life was like at that time. And I'd have to write a book about something totally different than my teeth.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't call it Smile, for one thing. And then I started thinking about all the other stuff that's happened to me in my life, and my relationship with my family, and a lot of other anecdotes that would make for good stories. Mm-hmm. And so I wove a story that had to do with my sister and me, but also just about growing up and, being 14 and feeling like you don't really have a place in the world, but looking for one.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so it all came together a lot faster than I thought it would.
Actually, before I got my braces, I read your book. I read it before I was like, okay, now I have to know what I'm in for. Yeah.
On your blog, there's a 7-page preview of Sisters, and they're going on a road trip.
Yes.
Is this and other events in the book things that had actually happened in your life, or are you kind of adding some stuff in?
It's true. It's real. Smile came a lot from my old diaries, actually.
Oh.
So I kept a really comprehensive diary when I was you guys' age. And so I was able to go back and read chapters of it and be like, wow, what was that thing like? And what was that boy that I had a crush on? And so I had a lot of concrete memories to reference for Smile, but with Sisters, it was not like that at all. And so I sort of had to play a little bit of connect the dots, where I remember this thing that happened and this thing that happened, and how could I tie them together? But everything that happens is real, and my opinion is that truth is stranger than fiction. So there's just so many weird things that happened on this particular road trip. I had to make a book about it.
Since these are all real events, did your sister help you recall any of it?
In a few cases, she did. The first draft of the script mostly focused on the two of us, but then she pointed out, our brother was incredibly annoying on that trip, and don't you remember how he used to make all these noises and dance and drive us crazy? And I guess because they're closer in age, my brother and I are 8 years apart, and they are 3 years apart. So they were closer, and as a result, they drove each other even crazier than my sister and I did.
Yeah, well, still, 3 years is better than 4 minutes.
Oh, who's older between the two of you?
Me.
Okay.
She thinks it's such a big difference, but it's really.
You know what? She's going to hold that over you forever, though. Right?
Better believe it.
You have to. So my sister pointed out some of my brother's traits, and I worked those into the final draft. And she also kind of just gave me some context for how she felt at the time, because we were close, I never felt like I knew her very well. I didn't spend a lot of time talking to her when I was 14. Mm-hmm. So I was like, what did you think of me when I was 14? What was your thing back then? So she kind of filled me in a little bit. But what she said about me at that time in our lives was, I don't know, you were just some teenager. So I'm like, all right, you weren't paying attention to me either. We have a strange relationship.
I have a quick question. Is the incident real? Did that really happen?
Did that happen?
The incident is 99% real. All of the components of the incident are real, but I decided to create the story in a way that made it much more exciting.
Oh.
And I could break that down for you guys, but since the book's not out yet, I'll probably write a blog post about it at some point.
You'll find out what the incident is.
Yes, you will. What does it involve? Slithering things and cars together.
Front seats.
Yeah, not good. Not good. Not a good incident.
When you started to write a companion book to Smile, another autobiographical-ish book, I don't even know what to call it.
That's right.
Why did you decide to write more about your adolescence instead of your life now?
Partly because my publisher is Scholastic, and Scholastic publishes books for kids. I think like the oldest that Scholastic's books go up to is like 16, so they'll publish YA, they'll publish middle grade, they'll publish stuff for really young kids. And because Smile was for middle grade and it was really popular, Scholastic was kind of like, hey, you're really good at writing middle grade. You should keep writing more middle grade. I'm like, you know what, there's only so much that happened to me between the ages of 9 and 12.
Yeah.
So I'm going to run out of material really quickly if I keep doing that. And that's part of why I went a little bit backwards in time with Sisters. I did flashbacks to being like a 4 or 5 year old kid and then leading up to being 14. So, I mean, that's one option for me. But
That's kind of, it's good that you're writing that. It's good. I really love authors who write about more of middle school because they're all either about like high school or they're like for little kids or older kids. It's like at this age, like 10-ish through 13, it's like you really have nothing to read that's technically your age group.
yeah. What do you guys like the word tween?
Yes.
You do?
Yes, I do.
That's
I
good.
like it better than preteen.
Yeah, me too.
Preteen just sounds kind of like formal and boring.
It does. You're not yourself yet. You're pre something.
Yeah.
The word tween did not exist when I was a tween, so it's like a new thing, and I'm like, I guess it's kind of cool, and I like that you guys are embracing it.
Why did you decide to write graphic novels instead of sticking to comics?
And I was inspired by comic strips, so it was like Calvin and Hobbes and Foxtrot and For Better or For Worse and Luann, and all of my favorite things to read were comic strips. So I started writing comic strips, and I was like, wow, writing 4 panels and a punchline is really hard. The format is incredibly challenging, and you have to do that every single day. And you have to be funny every day. And I was just like not having it. I was like, I don't want to do this. I just want to write
I
stories.
can never do that. Like, I'm awful at making jokes and everything funny. I'm horrible at it.
Me too. And so I was kind of stalled for a little while. When I was a teenager, I just did a lot of like, I mean, they were autobio comics. Instead of keeping a journal of just words, I kept a journal with comics. So I did that. I mean, I did that through college. I drew a comic about my life almost every day. But it was personal. It was my diary. Like, these weren't things I was going to show anybody. So I didn't do anything with them and eventually threw them all away because it was really embarrassing, some of the stuff that I wrote about. But when I was in college, I started drawing mini comics, and that's just like short stories. The format was more like a book, so, you know, comic style pages. And I found that that format was just a really good fit for me, but the stories were really short. So I was drawing like 3-page stories and 8-page stories. And then eventually I got asked to do the Babysitters Club with Scholastic.
I absolutely love the Babysitter's book.
Thank you. It was a great opportunity for me because I had never done anything that long. And once I started, I was like, oh yeah, this is great. I like writing long stories, making them comics, and I wouldn't have even considered making graphic novels when I was younger, but it just happened, and I feel like it's perfect.
Kind of a second part to that question. What advice would you give to kids who want to become a graphic novelist or want to become a comic book artist?
I always say start small. So try drawing a 1-page story. Try drawing a 3-page comic, maybe a 10-page comic that has a beginning and a middle and an end, because it's really challenging to write short stories. And it's good building blocks. It's good practice. It's good to be able to have the confidence to draw comics of any length, but then, you know, once you're good at drawing short ones, then you can be more confident at drawing long ones. And, you know, having stories you want to tell, obviously handy. Liking to draw, very important.
Have you always been this good at drawing? Or, like, because I'm awful at drawing. Have you always been this good, or did you have to work at it?
What do you think?
I think yes, because like every interview I've seen with every author ever, they're like, oh yeah, I had to put a lot of hard work into this, and it was so challenging getting up to this level. But
I don't know if it was challenging. It was just something I always liked to do. So when you like doing something, you do it all the time. You practice and you get better at it.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't make a video of me interviewing somebody. I'd be terrible at it. But you guys have been practicing and you're getting really good. And, you know, it's like that with drawing too. It's like working out. It's like muscles that you have to develop. And when I do talks at schools, I show people my art from when I was a little kid, and it's just scribbles. Like, it doesn't look like anything. And in Sisters, some of the art that you see in the background that my sister and I do is inspired by real pictures.
wow,
And none of it looks good. I mean, it's kid art.
I actually, like, when I was reading that, I noticed that. I said, oh, these are, like, really cute. I thought about that, but that's really cool that you did that.
There is a photo in the back of Sisters of me and my sister when we're 6 and 1.
Yeah,
And you can see some of my art on the walls in the background.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cute, but it's not good.
yeah. There's this one part where you're drawing like some picture of like a flower, and then Amara starts drawing like all these animals and stuff. That is so like me and Anya. Like I draw like some awful stick figure, and like maybe I can draw a sun at this point. And then Anya is drawing like a bunch of stick figures with hair and glasses, and she's drawing landscapes and stuff, and it's just not fun. But what's the best thing about being a graphic novelist?
The Tweeks want to interview me. There's a lot of really great things about it. It's the thing I've always loved to do the most is make comics. But I really like meeting all the people that read my comics. It's nice to have readers. It's nice to have readers who are kids. And I mean, because I'm making comics about being a teenager and a tween, it's like a time in your life when a lot of people aren't sure of themselves and need something to connect to. So being able to make stuff that people connect to is amazing.
I can totally relate to that.
And I think, you know, being kind of an optimistic person means that you write books that have an optimistic point of view. And not all books are like that, but I like making the kind that are. I like reading the kind that are too.
Very great.
This is leaning more towards one of your books, drama.
Yeah.
I know that you mostly do autobiographical graphic novels, but do the characters you write, are they based off of people you know, or do you just make them up in your head?
So for drama specifically,
Yeah.
they are almost all inspired by real people. So I mean, Callie's not me. She's got way more confidence than I had when I was 12, let me tell you. But I like to make stuff. She likes to make stuff. She gets really excited when she meets new people, and I kind of feel the same way.
Oh yeah, me too.
So I think she and I have certain things in common. She's the kind of person that I wanted to be when I was 12. And then Jesse and Justin, the twins that she meets, are basically facsimiles of two of my best friends from high school. One of whom was basically out and proud, if you will, and his brother was not. So I fell for his brother. And that was a problem because he was not interested in girls, and but we're great friends. And I mean, we had a very strong connection, and it's one of my fondest memories of high school is like doing projects with them and making things with them. We never were on stage crew, but I was in musicals and I was in student government, and I was always making art projects with my friends and doing like Spirit Week type of stuff, and it was so much fun. So instead of writing a book about my high school experience, I thought, well, I'll fictionalize this and make it about middle school. But yeah, and some of the other characters are inspired by real people too, but none as directly as Jesse and Justin. And similarly with my sister, I had the character who Jesse's based on read the script for drama first. So I was like, is this weird? This is weird that I'm writing about our friendship and about how I was like really into you when I was 16, but we're fictional. And he was like, oh, it's totally cool. They're both actors. And so they were like, Raina, we draw inspiration from real people in our lives all the time. When you're an actor, you have to find your inspiration somewhere. So it's people. Yeah. So they were like, it's exactly the same thing. One of them is a drag queen now. It's pretty great.
That's the best.
Awesome.
He's a drag queen a cappella singing star.
That is the coolest.
And his brother does straight plays. When I say straight, I do not mean straight. I mean straight up.
Straight up plays.
Yeah.
Not
Not musicals. Yeah.
How did you get your first book published?
Well, like I said, I was making mini comics when I was in college, and that means I was self-publishing. I would go to Kinko's and I would Xerox my pages and then fold them into little booklets. And I came to Comic-Con in 2003. I got a table in the small press section. I was selling my mini comics to people. I mean, it's like right over there, which is really cool. And I had a great time. I made some money. And one of the people who bought a mini comic was a guy named David Saylor, who is the editor-in-chief at Graphics. And that's when they were starting up the imprint. So they had already signed up Jeff Smith's Bone to be their first project. And they were looking for new artists to work with. So I went in. I mean, I'm in New York City, so were they. And it was easy for me to just drop by their offices. So we had a meeting, and they looked at the stuff that I had in my portfolio and the stuff that I was kind of kicking around in my brain, like I might do a story about this or maybe this. And they were like, yeah, those are okay. What can we do with you? And then we just started talking about books and what I liked to read when I was young. And I told them that I had been a Babysitter's Club fan. And that is their property. Scholastic owns the Babysitter's Club. And they were like, maybe we should do an adaptation. Maybe you should try drawing these characters. And what would you think about that? I went home and I drew some character sketches. I did a chapter sample. So I just did like thumbnails of the first chapter of the first Babysitter's Club book. I brought it back to them, and 2 weeks later I had a publishing deal. Yeah, and that turned into 4 books. And then when I was done with the Babysitter's Club, they were like, what else you got? I was like, I got this comic Smile I've been working on. It was on the web at the time. And they published it, and then everything kind of exploded after that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
How long does it normally take for you to finish, not necessarily publish, but get a book to its final draft?
It depends on the book, but right now it's taking me about a year and a half. And that's like the writing, the drawing, the inking, getting everything ready to go to the publisher. I don't do my own colors. If I did my own colors, it would probably add another 6 months to the process because I'm a slow colorist. But it takes about a year and a half.
About the coloring, did you decide about Callie's hair in drama to be purple?
I'll tell you the truth. I had her as sort of a dirty blonde. She had hair just a little bit darker than yours. And I was getting the pitch ready to send off to my editors. And I had like drawings of all the characters. And a pitch just means you show your drawings and you write up what the story is going to be about. I described all the characters. And Callie had dirty blonde hair. And then my husband Dave was at the computer. And he was just like noodling around. I didn't know what he was up to. I was doing something totally unrelated. And he goes, hey, Raina, look. And he had decided to color her hair. And he had 2 different samples. One with like blue and green and the other with purple and pink. And I looked at the pink and purple and I was like, that's her. That's totally her. And it didn't even occur to me before that. And then I sent that to my editors, and they were like, 12-year-olds don't have purple hair. And I was like, yeah, they do. I think you guys, I think I know more than you do. So
Everyone has different color
yes,
hair.
they do. I was pitching this in 2010, so it has been 4 years, and I think more 12-year-olds have colorful hair now than they did. But, I mean, now it's like, of course you have purple. Of course your hair is blue. Like,
That makes sense.
why wouldn't it be? So that was a spur of the moment idea that Dave had, and it was completely the right one. And I have never dyed my hair, so that's how you know she's not me.
Okay. Time. Who was your favorite author as a kid?
I mean, as a little kid, I liked picture books a whole lot, and when I started reading chapter books, I really liked Beverly Cleary.
Yes.
I really loved Ramona, but I liked a lot of the other books Beverly Cleary wrote too. I like Judy Blume.
Yeah.
My favorite Judy Blume book is one called Just As Long As We're Together.
That's one of my favorites.
It's really good. It's just about like real girls going through like different friendship
Real
trials and
going through real
tribulations.
things. I love books like that.
Yeah.
Your books are like that too.
How convenient that is the case. I know. I'm really honored that people make that connection sometimes, but I've been told like, oh, you're kind of like the Judy Blume of graphic novelists, and I'm like, I'm dead. That's amazing. And I was a big Anna Martin fan, which, I mean, that's perfect that I ended up doing the Babysitter's Club for Scholastic, but I liked a lot of her other books that weren't the Babysitter's Club, and when I met her, she was like, I wrote this book once called Bummer Summer, and I was like, that's my favorite book of yours. And so I was like, let's do a graphic novel someday. And I think we were just joking around, but I'm like, that'd be so much fun. And then when I was a teenager, I read mostly comics, to be honest. Yeah.
I noticed that on the road trip, Raina brings a bunch of comics with her.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
And who is your favorite superhero?
Gosh, my favorite superhero is probably just, I love the X-Men in general. Like, I think that all of the X-Men together sort of make up the ultimate team, and they all have so many different skills, and they're all different, and they're all a little bit out of place and awkward. And I think that's why I like them so much. It's like they're just like the kinds of kids that I like to write about, but they have mutant powers.
That's it with our interview for Raina. Thank you so much for coming to speak with us.
Absolutely.
And tune in for more stuff from Comic-Con. Bye.
That's all for now. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Subscribe.